guys, and welcome to this week's episode of TRUUU Podcast. I'm your host, Drea.
And I'm your host, Alex.
And this week, we are doing another movie breakdown. So we've done a few of these guys. We've done, what was the first one we did, Alex? It was High School Musical.
Yeah, that's right. I made you watch High School Musical.
Alex made me watch that one.
They're partial, movie breakdowns, partially one of us experiencing a movie for our first time.
Correct. Yeah. So it's usually a movie that the other person holds in somewhat of a dear place in their heart, forces the other to watch. So we've watched High School Musical, Superbad, which is my choice. And then Alex chose 10 Things I Hate About You.
Right.
And then now I'm choosing Wedding Singer, or I chose Wedding Singer.
Yeah, so I had to watch Wedding Singer.
Alex had to watch Wedding Singer. So we will get into the little nitty gritty of breaking that movie down in a moment. But before we do so, let's start with our week updates. Alex, how was your week?
So my week has been good. I'm trying to think if there's anything right now to share really as an update. I know that there is, because I was thinking about this earlier. I'm just like, what am I going to say, in this week update, blah, blah, blah.
Are you not able to talk about your biggest update this week, or is that still on the DL?
That's a DL thing. We'll tell you guys about it later, probably in I don't know, a month or so.
When it's more a fish?
Yeah, more a fish.
Okay.
So yeah, that's going to have to wait, although that's a really exciting one. So wait in anticipation for it. It'll be worth it. But anyway, so not that you'll care about this at all, but so I have a pretty severe Funko Pop addiction.
Right.
So I collect the figurines, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been waiting for there to be Demon Slayer Funko Pops, because I started watching the anime for it when it first came out, really. Mm-hmm. So a little bit while ago, but since the movie came out globally, it's really been a super popular thing.
Mm-hmm.
So now Funko finally released yesterday. It was for the first time yesterday. They released their new Funko Pops for Demon Slayer, or any Funko Pops really for Demon Slayer. And here's the crazy thing is that, and it's really annoying too, the way that they do this. So the main Funko store sells the versions that you can just buy at any place.
Okay.
But then they give certain exclusives to certain stores. So Hot Topic or Box Lunch or GameStop or different places. So there's exclusives that you can only buy at these certain stores. So to tell you really how popular it is already, I was only able to, out of the 5 exclusive pop figures that they had for this release, I was only able to get one pre-order.
That makes sense. Sold out. That makes sense if if no one's ever had it before and it's brand new exclusive content, and I'm assuming that Demon Slayer is relatively popular. I can see it being it's gone.
Right. I mean, but compared to other new pre-sale things, exclusives that I've seen, this went out astonishingly fast. I don't think I was less than 12 hours behind the release.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get most of them, so I'm gonna have to wait. Hopefully those come back into stock, because I really want them. They're super cool.
There is actually a Funko Pop that I really, really want. Because I'm not a very big collector like you are, but there is one that I specifically really want, and it is also challenging to get my hands on. Then again, it's not. It's just that I don't want to pay that much for it.
What is it?
It's the Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec, but it's a specific one. So Amanda for my birthday gave me, no, not for my birthday, for Christmas, gave me a pop vinyl of Ron Swanson from the Snake Hole Lounge when he's really drunk off the snake juice.
Yeah, sure.
And then there's another version of Ron Swanson where he has the dreadlocks when he marries Tammy 2 the second time.
Yeah.
And I really want that one, but every time I look for it, it's $200+ on eBay, and I'm no way am I paying that.
Here's the thing, also with exclusives and stuff. Mm-hmm. There's no way, unless you're buying it straight from the store that's intended to be sold from, you have no way of knowing if it's real.
Mm-hmm,
which only really affects resale value later, if you care about that sort of thing, which I
don't.
You don't, and that's understandable because you don't have a vast collection, whereas I have enough now where I'm just I kind of care if it's real or not, because at some point I'm gonna probably have to sell these, because I think there's probably a certain point as an adult where I just can't have these anymore.
Yeah, I feel that. I mainly want collectibles that how am I saying this? Shows that I really love. I want collectibles from that show, and I'm whatever about the rest.
And see, that's the thing. I've been operating by that principle, and I still have so many.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It is. It really is a problem. But
also speaking of pop vinyls, you know who, well, it's not a pop vinyl, but it's like not the brand pop vinyl or Funko Pop or whatever it's called. You know who just released their own like versions of that?
Oh, the Try Guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were just announcing it on their Insta.
Yeah, I saw that. It's interesting.
It's interesting. I mean, it's cute. It's like whatever. But anyway, go on with your what else happened in your week?
Okay, so tomorrow is my mom's last day of work, right? So she's a teacher, and they're only gonna meet for like 45 minutes, right? So it's gonna be like the most like who cares last day ever.
Okay.
Because 45 minutes is nothing. It's not enough time to really do anything. By the time you get the kids in the classroom and settled, you have 20 minutes left. But anyway, so she was asking me my opinion on what movie she should have them watch on Netflix.
Okay. And this is kindergartners, right?
Right. So her requirement is that this has to be rated G, not PG, but G.
Got it.
So like she's reading off a list of like family movies and whatever that she's Googled for like Netflix, because she's like, she Googled specifically like G-rated films, which already the list that she got wasn't correct as far as that goes.
Okay.
And so like we're debating like the merits of these and whatever, because like her thing is she doesn't want any part of it to be scary.
Okay.
And she doesn't want a lot of fighting.
Okay.
So like she shot down Princess and the Frog because the Shadow Man's too scary.
Okay, that's fair. The Shadow Man is scary.
And I said that to him, just like, well, the Shadow Man's kind of scary because he talks to spirits, whatever. Shot down Mulan because there's fighting.
Mulan is a classic, but okay, go on.
Shot down Tarzan because the gorillas can be scary.
Okay, here I am. I have moved. Okay, let me start from the beginning right now. When you started with Princess and the Frog, I was like, I love that movie, but it's fair. I get it. Like it's scary. When you moved on to Mulan, I'm like, I get it less because it's a great movie, has a great message. It's very funny. And yeah, there's fighting, but it's not like intense fighting. And so, but I'm like, okay. I guess I can get it. But Tarzan, you're going to come after my Tarzan. I love Tarzan. It was just a real good, beautiful movie about love and loyalty and family. I don't stand.
She's not like saying it's a bad movie. She just doesn't.
But for kids, it's so good. It's a beautiful, beautiful movie.
Yeah. Anyway, and then she asked me one. She's like, well, what about this one? She asked, what about All Dogs Go to Heaven? And I'm just kind of like, are you kidding me?
She don't want to show Tarzan. She's going to show All Dogs Go to Heaven.
So like, first of all, yeah, it is a sad movie, but also there's a point in the movie where like the main dog, whether that be in a dream or like in reality, because the dog did die, for all intents and purposes, goes to hell. This dog goes to hell, man.
And your mom's like, yeah, that's a good one.
Well, she didn't remember that part until I just like started busting up laughing, because I'm just kind of like, what are you talking about? That's the worst one of that bunch.
That's hilarious.
Eventually she ended up deciding on Magic School Bus.
Okay, that's a very appropriate choice. Fair.
Right.
But I'm still personally offended about the Tarzan comment.
Yeah.
You know what movie she should be? Well, I guess you can't really show it because it has like religious connotations.
What?
But I was going to say VeggieTales is another really good one.
Oh yeah, I mean she can't show that.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I guess
you're absolutely right. But also, where would you find that? Like that doesn't stream anywhere, does it?
No, you're right. I don't know where you find it, but I remember like loving VeggieTales when I was little. Like I was like, that is the movie.
Yeah, it even has the manatee thing for you and Wardo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I love it.
So ultimately, I'm just like, I feel like, you know, Magic School Bus is a solid choice, not only because it's literally an educational TV show, but also since it's a TV show, it's not like you can watch an episode or two and actually meet that 45-minute requirement.
Yeah, definitely.
Of starting a movie that you can't finish.
Absolutely, I agree.
So I'm just kind of like, that works out. Let's see, what other things do I have to...
Sorry to keep hijacking your like week update, but that just reminds me, sorry. I can just hold this for mine.
No, it's fine. Because you'll forget.
You're right.
Just say it.
Speaking of like starting movies and classes and just like never being able to finish them. When I was in high school, in my English class, which another side story really fast, my English teacher in high school was, Fergie, like from Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah.
It was her aunt was my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Random. But anyways, so I was in a class with her. That was like the year before the year that she was going to retire. Like my next year that I had her, because I took senior English because I was lazy. I had her again. She retired that year. Anyway, not the point. The second year before she retired, we read that one book. What is it? 1984 or something?
Yeah.
You know the book I'm talking about?
That. Yeah.
It's like that book about like a dystopian future that's like all monitored by the government and like da 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 da, stuff like that. It was actually a really good book. But after we finished reading it, she was like, oh yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I don't really know what to do from here. Like, she was so checked out. She was like, we just finished this book. Like, anyone have any suggestions? And I was like, oh, like, Miss Bond, like, I totally know what we should do. There's a movie that is exactly about the same topic and it's really good and we should watch it. And she was like, what movie is it? I was like, V for Vendetta.
Shut up.
And she was like, okay. And she literally was just like, sure, let's watch this movie. And like sent home permission slips to let us watch this like R-rated movie. And so we were like, yeah, let's sign it. So everyone signed it. I brought in my disc and like that movie's long. Like it is like 2.5 hours minimum. And those classes are like maybe 50-minute classes, maybe if that. And like you're saying, like by the time you get in, by the time you get settled, by the time you start it, it really is like maybe 35 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And it took us like 2 weeks to get through this movie. It was like such a waste of time, but I was living for it. I was just like, this is the best like decision I've ever made a teacher make.
Yeah. I mean, well, obviously it works out because like the school you went to, because like there's no way we could have suggested something like that at my school.
I went to a public school.
Right. I mean, but like it's good though that she was able to like send permission slips home and whatever, because I'm just kind of like, what do you mean you were able to watch that in class? It's a rated R movie. But like
she sent permission slips.
Fine. Well, that's cool though that the class like kind of unanimously, I guess, like got consent to watch it. Like that's a pretty cool win, I think, for high schoolers everywhere.
It was really cool. It's a good movie. It's a really good movie. It's just a long movie and a very serious movie. But I was like, it's the same topic we were just reading about. Now we get to see it on the big screen.
Well, I mean, I guess other than that, there's not really much that I have to go off of because, one kind of cool thing that I got to do. So, today, as you know, Dre, but we got tickets for a concert, which is like super lit. It's super fun. We're gonna be doing that in October.
It's definitely exciting being that we're coming out of like this pandemic. Well, we're still in it, but like we are now vaccinated. We are now moving into the world.
Yeah.
So it is very exciting to be able to do things. Although by that point, I'm wondering if at least I might need to get like another booster for COVID vaccine. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, we'll see how it goes. And I also did like buy the ticket insurance on it just in case. Like, it even has like, it has some like COVID allowances in there as well.
Got it.
And it's kind of like there's no harm in purchasing this ticket insurance, especially considering the times we're living in right now.
Yeah, I feel you.
Might as well just spend the little extra money on the insurance. But yeah, so that's really cool. I was really stressed out though, because my whole thing when like purchasing like tickets for a group of people is like a couple things, right? So like one, I try to check with like you and Nicole beforehand to see like what your max is on what you want to spend on a ticket, because I can't be trying to choose a ticket and then like texting you guys at the same time. That doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And then also like we didn't pre-discuss like where you guys would have liked to have been, like because we were going to see the Jonas Brothers at the Hollywood Bowl in October. Super cool, because like the last thing that we saw before quarantine happened was Jonas Brothers, so this is gonna be the first thing we see out of it. So it's really just like
full circle thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool. But not talking about where you guys want to sit at all. It's kind of like it was major stress for me because I'm just kind of like, man, I don't want to pick a bad spot.
Here's the thing, Alex. Like I 100% understand that anxiety. Like if I were in your situation, I would be feeling the same way.
Yeah.
But it's also like me and Nicole would never be like, what the hell is this, Alex? Like, why would you choose
No,
it? You know what I mean?
You wouldn't. You're right, you wouldn't.
Way.
But I wanted to do, a pleasing, decision for the whole group. But
which it was great seats.
Yeah. So I was at, and you pointed this out as well, I was actually pretty surprised on like how like, not outrageous the ticket prices were, like depending on where you were at, because like
right,
where we're at in the Hollywood Bowl, if you guys are familiar with the Hollywood Bowl, which our Southern California listeners might be, but if you're anywhere else, then you might not
You're
be.
like, what is this? What is the Hollywood Bowl?
But usually, for like, I think us, like if you're going to the Hollywood Bowl, you're like in one of the back rows,
Like on the lawn.
Yeah, one of the back rows, because that's, the more affordable stuff. But we're pretty close, like we're in the row right behind the premium seats, really.
I also kind of feel guilty because I didn't know how good of seats we would get with like the price range I gave you. And I'm like kind of wondering if you would have gone up to like Nicole's price range, which is a little bit above what I said, like how good those seats would have been. And I'm like, ooh, we could have been like really up there in front. But I'm like, it's fine. We still have good seats. And now I'm like, what could have been?
See, here's the thing, really, just to tell you what I really would have done. So if I would have found something with that little of a discrepancy, I would have just been like, I'm making an executive decision to Drea.
Like, Drea, suck it.
Well, because I think I know you well enough to know
I would have been like, fine.
Yeah, you would have been fine. Like, I'm not trying to make you like spend a couple $100 over what your max is.
Right.
But like, because that's the thing, right? So like in the front parts of the Hollywood Bowl is like this like terrace seating sort of deal where you actually kind of have real seats.
Yeah.
Because the Hollywood Bowl, like the back rows or like the regular seating rows and going to the back is just all stone benches, really. So like I was looking at the terrace things because it was saying, and that's the stupid thing of how like they have it set up like on Ticketmaster to buy this. Like I'll tell you what the lowest cost ticket in that area is, but they won't tell you where it is.
Right.
So like I was trying to find things in that little terrace thing because it was saying that there were some like around 150, and it's like that's really cheap for that area.
It was like behind a pole.
Yeah, right. But the ones that I was clicking on that had like enough, seats in the area for all of our party was like $700. So I'm just like, well, they're just like messing around. And then as I'm clicking on things, other people who, because like
you were like getting, yeah,
because like I was doing the fan pre-sale. And like you have to be in a waiting room and then you're in the queue and then like it's a free-for-all, right? So yeah, like as I was clicking on things were being bought. So like I was like, well, I just need to find like the next, row back in the regular seating, 4 together. That's just what I'm gonna buy. So that's what I did. It ended up being pretty good seats, I think.
I agree.
And it's going to be interesting because like the whole thing that they're doing, obviously to account for like social distancing and stuff, is that they actually like are putting like 2 seats between each person. So like 1 or 2
seats between each person or between each party?
It seems like between each person because our group has seats 15, 17, 19, and 21.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I'm just kind of like, I'm pretty sure that like if you're in a party together, you'll just sit together because how are you even going to like, how are they going to monitor that?
Yeah, it's probably like, really? That's like the section you have sit where you want in it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing there, which will actually be kind of cool because the Hollywood Bowl, like before this whole thing could get pretty packed and busy. So it'd be kind of nice to be there and it not be super crazy.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's like the concert experience that everyone wants, like seeing a premium headliner, but with not a ton of people there. That's like the dream, right?
I 100% agree with you. That's gonna be awesome.
There's that. And then the other thing I did today, which it was a big spending day for me, really. So I, got those tickets, and then I'm seeing a friend of mine from high school who she's vaxxed too and whatever, and I'm gonna visit her in Oregon.
Oh, you're going to Oregon?
Yeah, in July I'm going to Oregon for a long weekend.
Ooh.
And yeah, so that's gonna be fun. So I bought the plane tickets for that today.
Wow, that's exciting, Alex. That's a big thing.
I know, right? And well, it was like with some stipulations, right? So like I was only going to buy flights where it was nonstop. I didn't want any layovers.
Yeah, I feel that.
For multiple reasons. I mean, like not wanting to just be in multiple areas sort of deal. But then also like, because she lives in Corvallis, Oregon, which is like an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Portland.
Okay.
So I'm flying into Portland, and it's just like that's not that far away by plane. Like if I were to like the most of the layovers go up to Seattle first and then go back
Yeah.
down to
So
Portland. Like
stupid.
what's the point in going
It's
past
so
my
stupid.
destination and then bringing me back? I don't get that.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that's that I hate. Well, I understand it because it's always like major airports, it's like easier to go there and that's why it's like sometimes better pricing. But I'm
right.
just like the less time in the air that I can spend, the better.
Right. So it's actually kind of interesting because, like, when I was like, explaining this whole thing to my parents, because like the closest airport to Corvallis is actually Eugene, Oregon.
Okay.
And not that you necessarily like know this comparison that well, but it would be like when I usually go up to my families in Idaho to visit them, it's
Okay.
the difference between flying into the airport that I fly into, usually Twin Falls, which is not that far away from them, or flying into Boise, which is a couple
Okay.
hours away. So like flying into the smaller airport is a lot more convenient, but it's usually a lot more expensive.
Right.
So I went with Portland just because I'm just like, I want something that's a little
Better
bit less
pricing.
expensive.
Yeah, I
But
get
yeah,
that. I totally
so
get that.
I'm really excited for that. I mean, she's, completely vaccinated and stuff, so that'd be it's like a cool little treat myself trip because I've never been up to see her in the
Yeah.
entire time we've been graduated. I haven't been up to see her up there. So
That's Sarah, right?
yeah, my friend Sarah.
That's
Um,
exciting. That's going to be so fun for you.
Yeah, and then also we have my other good friend from high school too. She lives up and actually in the Portland area, and she just had recently had a son who's actually about my nephew's age. So I'll be able to see her and meet her son as well. So that'd be kind of cool, which is really weird coming out of my mouth right
That
now.
is nasty, Alex. That is so gross. Like the day that I say that, I will kill myself. I'm gonna go meet my best friend's son. Like, oh my God, ew.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. Have that, now in the books officially. So it's rounding out to be like about, one mini trip a month during the summer for me.
Mm-hmm.
Our
That's gonna be
thing
really
included.
cool.
I know,
Very
it's gonna
cool.
be really nice. Anyway,
That's
so
gonna be
that's me. How's your week been?
My week's been okay. Not super eventful. On the weekend, we had prom for my high school,
Right.
and that was interesting because obviously we're still in a pandemic, but seniors were like, I have to have a prom. And it was just a nightmare week because like seniors who were going to prom were like crazy, and then seniors who weren't going to prom were even crazier because like their parents are calling being like, this is ridiculous, how could you strip this experience of my senior, da 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 da. But it's like we could only have a certain number of like people going because of like COVID, and we
Right.
like advertised that from the beginning, like there's limited amount, and like then they're pissed that they didn't buy it. Like the tickets were on sale for like over a week, and they're like pissed that they didn't get it in time. And I'm like, it's not my problem that you literally like waited until the last minute and then it was sold out. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, two things really, because like the school that I work at also had like their own version of prom and stuff, which was half, in person, then half online. Like they had like
Um,
monitors set up so like people who weren't able to be there could like zoom in.
okay.
But like that must be really hard for like, schools like yours that they're public schools where the student population is gigantic.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's whatever. Honestly, it's whatever. It happened. It's done. Like it was fine. It wasn't even exciting. Like it wasn't even a good prom, Like it was 3 hours. We had the venue for 3 hours, and like the first hour was like check-in. And so really it was just dancing for 2 hours. And then like our ASB president, oh my God, like sometimes she tells me that she'll be like, oh, I listened to your podcast. And I really hope she won't listen to this one because I'm about to put her on blast right now. But our ASB president, oh, I felt so bad for her. So long story short, she had like a really bad night. The guy that like, oh God, I'm so angry at high school boys. There's like this guy that she's friends with, but she like secretly has feelings for him, but like won't admit it. But we all know she does. And she like wanted him to take her to prom, and he like wouldn't get the picture. Like he just didn't get he didn't get the vibes.
Right, yeah.
Until finally she was just like, I'm just gonna buy him a ticket. Like I'm just gonna tell him that I bought him a ticket. So she pays for his ticket, right?
I feel like that's weirder. Sorry.
That's not the point. She buys a ticket for him. Prom comes. He doesn't even go. Like he
Oh,
knows that she bought his ticket. They're friends. And he's like, I'm not gonna go.
that's sad.
So that's already a thing. It's a whole me Marcel situation with her and her best friend in high school where he's like
Right.
in love with her and she's like, I really am not feeling it. So then her best friend is like trying to dance with her at prom and she's like, I'm not feeling it. Da 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 da. She's at the dance. I guess like all the juniors have like overtaken the middle of the dancing stage. So like all the seniors are like on the outskirts and she's like not even feeling like this isn't even fun. Like I'm not even like dancing in the dance center, like we're just like out on the side. So she's not even dancing. She like is over the night, like she's like over it. They're gonna go home. And then she realizes so for her dress, she had gotten like an adhesive bra.
Okay.
And then I guess like towards the end of the night, maybe she like realizes that she's having a reaction to the adhesive.
Oh no.
So then she's like, oh my gosh, she's having like a rash. And so then her friend's mom, who is the one that like took them or something, she gives her a Benadryl. So then she takes the Benadryl. She's like, okay, I'm going to feel better, whatever. On like the bus ride home, she's like crying in the bus because she's just like, this is just such a blah, like awful night. They get like to the house or whatever, and they're going to get like Raisin Canes. And they get there and like she's sitting there and all of a sudden she's like, the Benadryl hits her or something. And she like falls asleep at the table in Raisin Canes. And then they like, the food comes, they're like, hey, wake up. Like the food's here. She's like, huh? Okay. She eats like one, falls asleep. They're like, we have to go home. She's like, okay. So she gets up, gets in the car, falls asleep. They get to her house. Come on, we're here. She gets in the house, falls asleep. I guess like someone called her dad. And they're like waking her up. They're like, hey, your dad's here. She's like, my dad's here. And they're like, yeah, your dad's here. She's like, she gets in the car with her dad, falls asleep. Like gets home. Her brother's like, what's that? She's like, Raising Canes. Like gives him the food. Like doesn't even eat it. Just gives it to her brother. Goes to bed and like wakes up at like 3 p.m. the next day. And so that was like
Wow.
her whole prom experience. And I'm like, that I would cry too. Like I would have cried at my prom too if that was my experience. Like that is miserable. That's so sad. Yeah, it was bad. And then like on top of it, so then another girl who's in ASB, she was voted to be a homecoming princess during homecoming season. And
Mm-hmm.
she elected not to be put on the ballot because she was like, I don't want to be on homecoming court. I want to be prom queen. Like I'm putting all of my money in the basket to be prom queen. So she like elected not to be on, because you can't be on prom court if you're on a homecoming court is basically the reason.
Oh, okay.
So she elects not to go on homecoming court. That's a whole nother thing. She gets on prom court and she's just like, great. Like, that's why I didn't want to be on homecoming court. I want to be prom queen. I'm popular. I'm nice. Everyone likes me, which everyone does. She's really great. And she does not win. And
Ooh.
it's like, oh my God, that sucks. And the girl who did win, like, I really like her too. She's another ASVer, but I'm like, that sucks.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it was a very interesting night. Go ahead.
at least she was on court though, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm like, at least she's on court, but like I know she was like specifically like, I want to be prom queen. Like that's why I don't want to be on homecoming court. Which is fine. Like ultimately, what does it matter?
Right.
But anyway, so I was doing that. I drove all the way to Laguna Hills to do that. And then after that, like at 8 p.m., I had to drive all the way to Upland to go to my brother-in-law's house because they were having his birthday party.
Yeah.
And it's like their last shindig before they move because they're literally moving into their new house on Saturday this week.
Right.
So drove all the way over there, got like had a few drinks,
Yeah.
got really like talkative. I was literally like in Danielle's laundry room with her friend Ricky,
Yeah.
talking to him for what I thought was like 10 minutes and what I think it actually was like 2 hours. Like everyone's like, where did they go? Like Aaron had to like go get me and be like, hey, are you good? And I was like, yeah, like we're having a good time. We left at like 12:30. I was falling asleep in the car. Like poor Aaron was like dealing with me. But it was fun overall. Like they had like a nice little time, and it's like nice to like close that chapter of their book, say goodbye to that house and the end. And then other than that, I think I feel like there's like one more thing that I wanted to talk about, but I'm not really remember. Oh, so I finished The Circle season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And let me say, it is very interesting. I really liked season 1. I have to say season 2 is more entertaining.
Really?
Yeah, which I thought I wasn't gonna like season 2 because Danielle told me, she was like, "Oh yeah, season 2 is a lot more drama. It's a lot more strategy." Da 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 da. And I was like, I'm not really in it for that." Like I'm like I like season 1 because I like the characters
Right.
and I feel
Yeah.
like I like like they're like fun people.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave season 2 a shot because I was like, I've already watched the whole season 1, whatever. So I
Right.
watched season 2, and it began like the beginning of the season was like this drama ensued so quickly between two people, and I was like, this is a little bit much for me. But then I stuck with it, and I was like, by the end of it, I was like, I'm so obsessed with the season. It's so good. And the winner, I'm not gonna say anything, but I am genuinely surprised at who won.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Alex, you have to finish season 1. Where are you?
I haven't moved past where I said that I was the last time we talked about it. Here's the thing, man. I've just been here's what actually happened, which I forgot to mention in my week update, but you just literally reminded me right now. So what I've been spending my time lately doing is, do you remember a couple years back I started watching on BuzzFeed Multiplayer the 100 Baby Challenge?
Yes, I do remember that. You
So
started playing Sims again?
no,
Oh.
not at all. I did not do that. Although I've been thinking about doing that.
I've actually thought about it too, but go on. Sorry.
No, so the whole thing is like she went for like a while, like Kelsey and Peachy K, the one who was doing like the whole series, she went a while doing it. Then she took a hiatus just because she was overplaying it for a while.
Okay.
Which is understandable. So I actually watched it like week to week as it released up until that hiatus.
Okay.
And then sometime when I wasn't really paying attention to YouTube, she started doing it again. So just recently she had finished filming the entire series. Like they did the whole thing. So I was catching up on the 100 Baby Challenge is what I've been doing for like the past however many days.
Okay, well, maybe we watch, well, no, because I have to edit this stupid podcast after this. I was going to be like, maybe we watch an episode Circle via stream together after this, but
sorry about it.
Got things to do.
So literally like earlier today, I finished watching the 100 Baby Challenge.
Okay, well now you're done with it, so finish the Circle. Dang it. You have to watch season 2. Like, I'm like, I need to talk about it.
I'll get there.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah, I'll get there. So let's get into what we're
Let's get into our actual podcast because that was some long week updates. Okay, so we watched the classic movie by Adam Sandler, which is a really funny sentence to say, really. The Wedding Singer.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give a really quick synopsis of like basically what the movie is, and then we'll move into it. So basically this movie is like a rom-com. It is one of like the earlier ones that he did, where the storyline is that he works as a wedding singer at this like reception hall. And this is like back before like DJs were, like the more popular option is like live music.
Right.
And so Drew Barrymore's character, who's named Julia, she gets a job at that same banquet hall as like a little food server. And so he's like doing weddings, she's like serving, whatever. They become like kind of friends. And ultimately he's supposed to be getting married like the next day. This is how it starts. And at his wedding, his fiance stands him up, like does not come, and he like loses it. He like goes through a little spiral. He like goes to work like, I don't know, a week later, and he has like a breakdown. He gets punched in the face. It's like bad.
Right.
So then Julia, she like sees all this transpiring and she's just like, oh my God. And she's trying to console him. She's like, da 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 da, you'll get through this, whatever. So they start like becoming like friends because he's going through it. She's very caring. And she, on the other hand, is also engaged, planning a wedding. And so eventually she's like, hey, can you help me plan my wedding? Because you're so good at it. You know, all these contacts from like, since you work in the industry, I'm new in town. Like, I don't really know things. Can you help me? So he's like, reluctantly, he's like, fine, I guess. So then they're spending a lot of time together. Eventually, they're like falling in love, but she's engaged. And so they go on this double date with her best friend and like her fiance, to which Adam Sandler realizes that her fiance is like cheating on her. And her fiance is also like this rich guy, whatever. He's in bonds, whatever that means. I don't even know what that means. But so he finds out that he's been cheating on her, and he's like having this like inner conflict with himself on whether he should tell her or just keep it to himself, because he's like, I don't want to make her like ruin her life and make her unhappy, but at the same time he's just like, but I love her so much, yada yada yada. There's this whole like inner conflict. There's like a lot of times where like they each like individually want to tell the other person that they have feelings for them, and then something gets in their way, and it's just kind of this back and forth. It doesn't work until ultimately she's gonna elope. Oh, so then she's about to go tell him that she like loves him, but then when she goes to his house, his ex like fiance had shown up the night before, and he was like drunk off his butt, and so like he doesn't even know this is happening, and she's like in there in the house, and she like opens the door, she's like, hi, I'm Linda, da, 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 in like underwear.
Yeah.
And Julia's just like, what the hell? And then she's like putting pieces together in her head, and she's like, oh my god, he got back with his ex, he doesn't want to be with me, like I'm an idiot. So then she runs home to like whatever his name is, Glenn, her fiance, and she's like, you know what, I don't even want to like a big wedding, let's just go to Vegas right now and elope. So then they hop on a plane. Meanwhile, Adam Sandler's character like realizes that like he needs to go after her. Her friend goes and tells him like, she came here to tell you she loved you, and like what's her face, Linda opened the door, and he's like, crap. So then he goes to the airport and he buys a ticket, and he's just like, I just got to go to Vegas and like look through all the chapels and try to stop their wedding. So the only ticket available when he bought it was like first class. So he's in first class, she's in coach, they're in the same plane, but they don't realize it until like ultimately they do realize it. And he sings this like beautiful love song to her. Her fiance gets like punched, like all the like people on the plane are like working with him to like get the fiance out of the picture. And then ultimately he's like, I love you. She's like, I love you. And then yada, yada, yada. They're happily ever after.
Right. So I will say the noteworthy thing about this movie, like in the context of why Drea is making me watch it, like obviously there's a whole like this is a classic movie sort of thing that everyone's all about. Like everyone's just like, you gotta watch The Wedding Singer, right?
Yeah.
My thing specifically is that, and I feel like whenever we talk about these sort of things, I seem so finicky when it comes to movies.
Okay.
Because Adam Sandler is also on my list of actors that kind of annoy me.
I know this, yes.
So I have purposely not watched many of his movies just because I don't want that kind of aggravation, because I usually don't like them.
Okay.
I will concede, I will say that I really liked this movie.
Yes. Yes. That I knew you would like it, because it's not like a very, it was like one of his first ones. So it's not a very like Adam Sandler-y movie of like the really bad jokes and annoying voices and stuff. It's really sweet. It's really cute.
Yeah. So like, I'm going to go through different things. So I'm just going to go through some general notes that I have, and then I'll go through things I love, things I could not stop laughing about, and then things that I just hated.
Okay, sure.
So like in general notes or whatever, the first thing that came to mind when I started like you do it, like they're doing like the opening like trailers or the opening credits to this movie, and like is like interspersing like him singing along with like the credits and stuff, and like just different things around the venue at the wedding that he's singing at. And what I gotta know is this actually Adam Sandler singing? Because here's the thing, is that there are parts of it that sounded super, super professional. I'm just like, there's no way that's him. But then there are more jokey parts where he starts ad-libbing that totally sound like him.
Yeah. So that's a great question. And that's not something that I necessarily have a direct answer for, but I do have a researched answer that kind of pertains to it that can add some insight into it. Okay. So Adam Sandler, fun fact, actually used to be a wedding singer.
Oh, really?
Not like super professionally, but whenever someone in his family was getting married, he would be like the singer at their weddings. Oh. Like it was just like kind of a thing he did. He would always just like be the one that provided the music. So I want to believe that he actually did do the singing, because I think he really does know how to sing. He's Adam Sandler, and like, you know, he's goofy. And so he'll add in those little like, you know, those like notes. But I actually legitimately in my heart of hearts believe that he is a pretty decent singer.
That's interesting. That really is. I mean, yeah, because like that's the first thing that occurred to me, because like the first part of what he sings sounds really professional, and then he goes into the ad-libbing. I'm just like, well, the ad-libbing definitely sounds like him. Like I know that's definitely him. But to me, the whole opening sequence of like laying the land of like where he's at is so outrageous, because like the time period is kind of like 80s-esque.
Yeah.
Like the bridesmaids' dresses and like the gloves are super heinous looking. Like So
Yeah.
ugly. And then like there's this grandma at this wedding who's being super creepy this entire time. Like, at the point, like where this couple who's dancing is kind of like grinding on each other a little bit, and like the grandma like has her hands on them, like to help out or something. And I'm just kind of like, ew, what are you doing? This doesn't need to be like a 3-person sort of thing, man. Like, gross. And then there was like some other relative probably who was like really overweight and just like eating the cake like before like it was cut into or whatever, which is like super crazy. And like I think someone in the wedding party or maybe even the bride was like carrying like a half naked baby, and like Adam Sandler's like, oh, put some pants on that kid.
Just
And
like casual about it.
right, and then it all comes to a point where, and I feel like this was a super random cameo but still super funny cameo, is that like for this, wedding that's setting the scene that has really nothing to do with anything, just showing that he's a wedding singer, the best man is Steve Buscemi.
I love Steve Buscemi. He's also not credited in this movie for some wild reason, but
Right.
I love him so much. I think he is so funny.
Oh, he definitely is so funny. So like he is playing like the brother of the groom, and he's super trashed and gives the most awkward toast ever about like mostly just getting mad at his dad, like because his brother is like the preferable son and whatever. And the brother didn't beat up his own landlord, and like he brings up about like how him and his brother got prostitutes at one point, like in front of like the bride and stuff. And so yeah, like gets like kicked off and whatever. Because like one thing that I was like kind of like questioning during this whole thing is like, is he just the wedding singer or is he also the MC? Because like he was introing the best man thing, and after Steve like gets like kicked off the stage, basically like he finishes kind of like the best man toast or whatever, and he gave a really nice toast because
Yeah.
this was the day before his wedding or whatever, like his own wedding. So he still believed in love at that point. But was really funny to me, like really funny in the opening thing, is like a running joke. It seems to be like for Robbie, Adam Sandler's character, for Robbie's wedding band, is that like when Robbie takes a break,
Yeah.
his boy George comes up to the mic
I love
and like
George.
sings his one song. And it's so funny because once George starts singing,
Oh, God.
everyone like it shows everyone being like, ugh, what is this? But
Everyone's
then
like, boo.
but then Steve Buscemi's like, oh, I like her.
Oh my God. I
Because like
love
it
George.
seems like George is like the way he's dressed and whatever, and like his behavior like throughout the movie suggests that he's like a gay man.
Yeah,
So
very fluid.
yeah, he looks like kind of like an effeminate sort of like man and whatever. So like Steve Buscemi's so drunk that he just assumes that George is a woman. He's
So
like, oh, I
funny.
like her.
I
Blah, blah, blah.
love that you brought that up because that's like one of the things that like literally makes me, I know you have a whole section about like things that like you couldn't stop laughing at, but like for me it's always George's scenes, like whenever he's like, do you really want to hurt me, because that's like the only song he sings.
Yeah.
And then like when he brings out like his multiple instruments when he's like playing the backup music, and then also like at Robbie's wedding when he goes into the gazebo and's like thrashing the place, and it like turns the camera to George. He's like, oh my God, he's like crying.
Yeah.
I could not stop laughing at that part. Like I love George and everything he is.
Well, since we're on that topic, I'll start with my like whole breakdown of things I just could not stop laughing over.
Okay.
And the very first thing on the list is George literally only sings one song. So like at the weddings and whatever, like he's only singing that song, right? And it's like the do you really want to hurt me thing. And then the big joke that they do later on once Robbie stops doing weddings, because that's what he decided. Like, after he got his heart broken and he did that one wedding where like he got, he lost it, he got beat up by the father of the bride or whatever, he decides to just stop doing weddings, period. And like one thing that Julia says is like, oh, like I'm sad that we won't be able to see each other as much. And he's just like, oh no, we'll still see each other because there's other types of events that happen, at the center or whatever. So it cuts to, the type of event he's talking about. And he's singing at a bar mitzvah.
Mm-hmm.
So which is really funny, like at the get-go, because like he's singing in like kind of like half Hebrew sort of deal.
Yeah.
And so that's really funny. And then he has George go on, and as you could have guessed, he sings that one song. And you're just kind of like, why is this happening? It's so dumb. And what's even
so
more
funny.
outrageous about like that whole thing, which I also couldn't stop laughing about, and I don't even think I put it in my notes, but just like because we're talking about that, bar mitzvah anyway, is that like Robbie like finds like this kid who's at the bar mitzvah who's being treated like a loser and whatever, and
Oh,
he
yeah,
has
so good.
Julia like help out to make the kid feel better because Julia is like amongst all these barely teenage boys is like super hot and whatever. So like in the middle of this whole thing, he's up on stage, is like, oh, who wants to dance with Julia, this really hot girl, whatever, and all the boys are just like, oh man, pick me. And he's like, okay, Julia, pick out the coolest guy here and dance with them. So she dances with the kid, which I'm sure that Robbie's tipped her off, like, hey, dance with this kid over here. So they do that, and then like the kid gets brave and like as they're dancing grabs her butt. And that then provokes everyone on the dance floor to grab each other's butts. And I'm like, I'm watching this, I'm just like, what is happening right now? This is so stupid.
It's so stupid, but it's so good. It just goes
really
with the feeling.
Yeah, that's really funny. I mean, I'm not sure that like that'd be a thing that happens now in movies, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a sign of the times, but it was funny.
Yeah. So another thing that's really funny is that the biggest scene stealer in the movie is actually this old lady named Rosie. So Rosie, for those who may or may not know, is this old lady who Robbie gives singing lessons to every Thursday or whatever. And she's just like saying always the most outrageous stuff. And the thing is that she doesn't really pay him money for these, music, for these singing lessons. He pays her, no, she pays him in meatballs. And like in the first thing when they introduce this whole dynamic, like he is being made uncomfortable by her and he really needs to go. So he's just like, oh, can I take, payment to go or whatever? And she's like, oh, and she grabs, her pot off the stove and whatever, like with these meatballs and marinara sauce and whatever. And she's like, well, I don't have any clean Tupperware, so just hold out your hands. So she puts the meatballs in his hands.
That is so nasty. And then she goes and she like squishes it with her own hands. It's like,
at one point, like she grabs his hands like to hold on to his hands for like emphasis or whatever, and she's like squishing the meatballs and like sauce in his hands or whatever. And it's kind of like, this woman is so crazy. And like another another super scene stealy thing that she does later on, which is so funny, is that like at a point in the movie where at this point, Holly, who is Julia's cousin, they are all talking about like what kind of kiss that Julia's going to do at the church when she gets married. Like they have a discussion of what's like an appropriate kiss to have, because Holly, who is her cousin, is known to be a little bit of a floozy. So like she's advocating for a less traditional and like just more like quote unquote inappropriate kiss. So like Drew Barrymore's character, Julia, she wants something a little bit more in the middle, so she's trying to describe it, and then Holly's just like, oh, I need to see proof. And it just so happens that like Robbie's walked in, she's like, oh, just kiss Robbie, of course, because that's not going to create a problem.
That also like so I was watching this like just before this podcast to refresh with my mom, and literally both of us are like, this is such a man directed scene. Like that is such an idea that a man would have in his head, that like, oh yeah, girls would do this, like women would think this is okay. And it's like,
absolutely there's no way.
There's zero chance in hell that this would ever happen. Like zero.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like no matter that's not true. I mean, I think, between you and I, like, because I'm sure that there's all different sorts of people out there who think that certain things are or are not okay. The type of people that we are, it doesn't matter if we're friends with the guy and it's not a big deal, quote unquote. It is a big deal. You're not you're not making out with your friends, man.
That is so nasty. In general, like, if you're literally going to get married, if you're with someone committed, I would never be like, oh, kiss this person, it means nothing. Like, prove it to me. Like, that is bizarre.
But anyway, so we deviated from the point. So like this has just happened, and like he's reeling from this kiss, right? Because like at this point he's starting to realize his feelings or whatever. And he's at Rosie's house and she's like working out like with weights. And, you know, they're talking and whatever, and she's like basically telling him, you need to get back out there. And like telling, you know, him to practice, like asking her out and whatever. She'll pretend to be like a young woman or whatever. And the whole thing, the whole interaction is gold. It's really, really funny. And then it just so happens that Julia walks up to ask, actually, and here's the thing. When Holly first proposed the kiss Robbie thing, the way that it was going, you would have thought it was because she already knew that they had feelings for each other and was like trying to help things along. Yeah. But no, so oblivious that like after this kiss happened, she witnessed Julia and Robbie kiss, which turned into kind of like, you know, a meaningful kiss there at the end. She comes out of that experience having watched that. She's like, I want to date Robbie now.
Which is bizarre.
You should set it up. You should set up me and Robbie after this whole awkward thing happened. So Julia went over because also her fiance Glenn thinks this is a good idea. So she goes over to Rosie's house because she knows and has spent enough time with him at this point that he'll be there, you know, on a Thursday to give vocal lessons to Rosie. And Rosie obviously has, you know, caught on to their dynamic and just kind of like, you know, oh, I'll get out of your guys' way. I'll just be back here like working out or whatever. She said like some specific workout that was like military presses is what she said. It was really funny. So like they're having like this conversation, which is super weird and awkward because, you know, she basically comes out like, hey, do you want to go on a date with Holly? And he's like crushed because he doesn't want to date Holly. He wants to date her. Like, and in the background, you just see this old woman like doing like reps with like these, you know, weights or whatever. And she's just like looking, like dead staring. Looking at them and just like staring, like doing these like really awkward like workouts in the background. And just like, she's such a scene stealer. It's so funny.
Yeah, I love her. She's good.
So going back to the beginning a little bit, like, because I wrote this in kind of like a chronological order as I was watching it. So fun fact, the woman who plays Rachel and Monica Geller's mom on Friends also plays Julia's mom in the movie.
Correct.
And in the beginning, because in the beginning of the whole thing, one of the complaints that Julia had is that her fiance wasn't setting a date. And it's been like 2 years. They still haven't set a date. So she's like, are we even actually going to get married? I followed him up here to like, and moved here for him, blah, blah, blah. And like she's, for whatever reason, in the car with her mom. And her mom is so funny. She's just like, oh, you know, to get him to set a date, you should just fake a pregnancy. Do you not remember that happening?
See, here's the thing, Alex. I think you watched the uncut version.
Did I really?
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't feel like these scenes are like, I feel like I might have watched these scenes at some point, but they weren't in like the version I just watched. It's
where I watched it. It's very likely that I watched the uncut version because it's on my friend's server. So like he very often has the uncut versions of things on there. So that's probably what it was.
I'm pretty sure this is uncut because I'm like, I don't remember that scene at all.
Yeah, well, it happens and it was really funny.
That's interesting. Okay, well, I'm getting brand new information right now.
Yeah, so the next one, I'm not going to say out the full line, but it really made me laugh. So after Robbie gets left at the altar, right?
Uh-huh.
So he has the freak out thing, which I'm just like, oh, there's the Adam Sandler right now.
Right.
I mean, like raging out at this place, which understandably, I guess, you know, being stood up for your wedding, that's pretty awful.
Nightmarish, correct.
So I think it's still like the day, no, it's the day after the wedding, I guess, or maybe the day of, but just later on, like he's at like, he stays at his sister's house. So he's at like his sister's house, which by the way, her husband is super gross and creepy, but that's beside the point. So he's there and he's sitting on the porch and whatever. And he's like holding like the bride cake topper or whatever, because like he's just having a moment. Mm-hmm. And Linda walks up, his, you know, now ex-fiance, and like they have at it and whatever. And his whole thing is like he really wants to just like work it out and like stay together. And it looks for a second that she might be considering it. But his nephew comes out of the house and just like, hi Linda, you're a bee. And then like walks away, and Robbie just kind of like, thanks, man.
That's so funny though, because kids really do that. Like kids like hear what adults are saying and they'll just repeat it like without knowing like the implications of it.
Like he just like dropped it like so like quickly, like a bomb. And it was so funny just in that moment, which is so funny.
But also, how could she be surprised? Like you literally like walked out on your man at the wedding altar, and
Mm-hmm.
how could you not expect him and his family to be like talking mad crap about you behind your back?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. So another really hilarious thing is that they gave Glenn the most heinous last name ever.
Oh my God.
So his name is Glenn Julia, and the main girl, her first name is Julia, so her married name would have been Julia Gulia.
Can
And
I
like
just
that's something that like Robbie comments on too. He's like, "Oh, that's pretty funny, Julia Gulia." Continue what we were saying.
that is literally like even before we decided to do this podcast, like before we talked about this movie, that is a line that I quote so often. I'm always just like in the mirror, like, I'm Julia Julia, and I just pretend to start crying. Like I literally do that all the time.
Yeah,
And Aaron had not like seen this movie until today when we were watching it, and he's always just like, what are you doing? Like, you don't get it.
yeah. So like the part that she's referring to is like towards the end, like after like he's kind of ruined things, like he being Robbie's kind of ruined things like with, you know, Julia, and he like reconsiders like I just need to tell her like what's going on, whatever. He sees her at her house or whatever where she's staying, and the windows are open because apparently the windows are always open in these movies, and you could just see the woman, you know, in her bedroom. But she's like dressed in her wedding dress, and she's basically trying to convince herself that she's happy, so she's saying her married names as, you know, Julia Gulia, and she's really upset about it. And then what he sees and where she seems happy is like practicing what her married name would be if she were to have married
Robbie.
Mm-hmm. So there's that. And then what I also thought was super funny is that like his character is like super charismatic and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's so outrageous that like he goes on this plane like and is in first class and whatever, and basically has the entire first class enthralled by his story.
Mm-hmm.
Like who's the celebrity that's there again?
Billy Idol.
Yeah, so Billy Idol's there, and like Billy Idol's super involved in the story as well, and it's just so outrageous. Like he's telling them like this is what's happening to me. I really just need to find her and blah blah blah. Like I'm enlisting basically the entire first class to help me out here, and it enlists essentially the entire plane to help him out in like this whole thing that he's trying to do, which is hilarious to me. And then in the end, just really bookending it very well, is that Steve Buscemi comes back as the wedding singer for their wedding.
Yeah, that's really the cherry on top.
Oh,
it's so good.
So
Okay.
I'll move now. Or do you have anything to say about this category?
No, I was gonna be like, tell me the things you hate.
That's actually what I was gonna go to next. And this is like a smaller sort of, you know, thing. One, I hate that Robbie gets left at the altar. Like obviously it has to happen in order for, you know, the main, you know, romance to happen.
Yeah.
But he's such a good guy that you just feel so bad for him, you know? Because, like, you don't want anyone to be left at the altar or, you know, stood up really at the altar because she didn't even leave. Like, she never showed up.
It really sucks because I totally agree with you in like how Robbie is such like a lovable character. But at the same time, it's like, if I'm being realistic, her reason for leaving him isn't a terrible reason. Like she's like, and I know it sounds bad, but it's like, you're a wedding singer, you don't really have other prospects. Like, I want to leave this town. Like, we're not going to be able to afford leaving this town if that's like the career path we are going down, you know? So like from a logistical standpoint, I kind of get it. It's really sad because then you see the flip side of like Glenn, who is very wealthy but a total DB. So it's like, I don't want that either. Ultimately the message is like, you know, it's the person within. It doesn't matter like what they're doing or whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, I kind of get it, like to an extent.
Well, sure, I kind of get it too, but also he's completely right when he tells her this is something that you should have brought up before.
Yes.
100%. She should have just talked about it with him, you know, instead of letting it get this far.
Absolutely, you're right.
And also, I mean, it's kind of only hinted at because you don't know that much about Linda and like what she's all about or like what her like line of work is or whatever. But I think it's kind of implied that she's like a moocher sort of loser as well. Like, it's not like she has that much going on for her. Like, and she
Yeah.
also like comes back later, just like, I made a mistake, take me
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, she's
Although
dumb.
like he's
She
so
sucks.
drunk that he doesn't even know what's happening.
She sucks.
So the next couple things are all Glenn related, because obviously
How can you not hate Glenn?
yeah, things you hate in this movie are just Glenn. So like that's one that I just hate Glenn. The character is the worst. And then like his whole look, like his whole Miami Vice look at the engagement party is like super irritating. And I'm pretty sure that he had a unibrow the whole time.
Oh God.
Like, it was especially prevalent when he was wearing like the whole Miami Vice outfit, that
Like the white suit outfit.
Yeah, I'm just like, do you have a unibrow, bro? It's like, this is really like the look that you're going for, especially since you're supposed to be some successful like hotshot, guy.
Not good.
Really what it is. And like when in the beginning, when they're first talking about like when he brings up the idea, like let's just, because he brings up the eloping to Vegas thing first. Like that's in the beginning of the movie, just like, hey, here's some tickets, let's go to Vegas and just get married.
Right.
And she's kind of like, not super excited about it, but at the same time trying to please him and being like, well, yeah, okay, we can do that. And I wrote down the line like word for word that he said that just made me so mad, and I think would just make women in general mad. So it's like, Jules, are you doing that girl thing? Are you gonna act happy and be pouting on the inside? And it's kind of like, what a tool, man. That is so annoying.
He sucks. He's meant to suck. Like his character is designed to make you hate him, but it's like, God, I hate him.
And I guess like, I could see the point in saying like, just say how you really feel instead of just like, masking whatever you're feeling and just pretending to be happy. I can understand that. Obviously, there's a way to tell that to a person, but also, I'm not sure, like, I'm not 100% behind the idea that it's such a bad thing to like try to like, make someone you care about happy, even though it might not make you the most happy.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's going to be a festering thing, then you probably shouldn't do it. But at the same time, like if it's not going to fester, then I guess, there's not.
Well, I think it's also, go ahead.
Also, I don't think any girl in that position is going to want to hear like, especially since like, oh, you should be so in love because, you're going to get married and whatever. No one wants to hear like, I don't care about all this stuff. So can we just get this done?
Yeah, that's so unromantic. But on top of it all, like it's like not even a good argument, because I feel like, okay, so I can understand someone saying that, even as direct as that, as blunt as that, as like, are you going to do that thing where you say it's fine, but on the inside you're pouting? I can actually understand someone saying that to a girl or like a person.
But to label it a girl thing, right?
Well, like, to label it a girl thing, but like even if it was a guy, whatever, to a person who's like, it's fine, and is like openly upset about it. Yeah. But like Julia was just like, no, like let's do it. Like let's do it. Like she was so like willing to make him happy, like the way she was responding was like not festering at all. So I'm just like, all in all, it wasn't a fair thing to say to Julia specifically. Like I get if a person has a reputation of being like, like bratty about it and just being like, it's fine. I kind of get it, but she really wasn't. So like he's not justified at all.
No, he's not. And I think to just label it unilaterally as a girl thing is probably something kind of annoying too. Because I'm just kind of like, guys can be passive aggressive too.
100%, sister. Oh my God.
Like that's not a corner that we own here. We're all capable of being passive aggressive. But then also like the whole thing, like when they're out like at the double date club thing, which I feel like a club is a really awkward first date.
Absolutely.
/ double date. Like that's a really weird thing to do, but obviously it needs to set up the whole fact that, Glenn's cheating on Julia.
Right.
But I'm just kind of like, that whole thing is like super scummy because like the way that he just plays into it, just like, yeah, like just 10 days ago I was with some, hot, chick, whatever. It's kind of like, Glenn, I know that you're meant to be the worst, but you really are the worst.
Yeah. And like, who would be bragging about that to someone who like, he knows that Robbie is Julia's friend? Like, why would I be bragging to someone who's friends with my fiance about that? Like, so stupid.
Yeah, so that part was all done. But moving past the things that I hate, which is basically just Glenn. I just hate Glenn. The things I love. One is like Robbie and Julia together, just from the beginning, like, you know, because it's not like one of those things, it's not a super, super deep movie, I would say.
Yeah.
Because from the very beginning, it's clear that these two are meant to be together, and that's that.
Yeah.
So there's that, and they get along super well. They don't really fight that much at all, and they stand up for each other just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm trying to think what it was. Oh man, what
Was it when they were talking to that lady who was like, "Oh, I can tell you guys are gonna last," and she was like, "Oh, we're brother sister." Was it that part?
No, it wasn't that part. So, okay, one of the parts I'm talking about is when they were actually looking at wedding singers for her wedding.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like that one guy, which I forget his name because he's super famous too, which is so funny to see him in such a small role there. But yeah, exactly who you're talking about. Like, he tells Robbie like, "Oh, thanks for like quitting the game because like now like I have the corner on it, whatever." Like, oh, and he's like, "Oh, maybe I should just thank Linda."
Oh yeah.
So just really being a DB about it, you know, just really being a jerk about it. And then she delivered the perfect line of Julia saying, "Well, you just convinced me to get a DJ."
Yeah, she was like, "You inspired me to get a DJ, thanks." And like he's just like, yeah, I love
So I'm just
it.
like, I love that they stand up for each other in that way, because then also like when later on, like after he started spending time with Julia and his friend, I think his name is Danny, the limo driver, like starts like making comments about, you know, just like, you know, over sexualized comments about Julia. Like, he is just like, "How about like I punch you in the face?" or, you know, "How about you stop talking about her?" Like, blah blah blah, because like he's just being an upstanding guy about her. Which is really cute. So I just really love them together.
Yeah, totally.
They're super cute, super funny. And then things that I love, the biggest part of what I loved about this movie is actually just Robbie.
That is so funny because you hate Adam Sandler.
Because I really don't like Adam Sandler movies usually, but this character that he played was really good.
Yeah.
Because like, first of all, it's established from the very beginning in the movie that he's basically like everyone's big brother.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's helping out everyone at this first like wedding that he's at. Like, he helps out that kid who's like super drunk and whatever. Like, he's just helping everyone out, really. Like, it's showing that he's just from the beginning a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And then also he's just very funny. Like, it's exactly, I'm sure that you were trying to find the spelling of witty because he is like wittiest because he is the wittiest. he's just so funny. Like, the, you know, really dry humor that he has like in this movie in particular is just super funny to me. Like when they're at the engagement party and Glenn's friend was like being super dumb about like, "Oh, weren't you just like, oh, didn't you just like get beat up at this wedding or whatever?" And then, or left at the altar. I think it might have been both, being left at the altar and then
you just got left at the altar. Yeah.
And then,
and he goes like, "My favorite guy when I was 10. You want to talk about that too?"
Yeah, that whole retort, I'm just kind of like, man, that was gold. I love that so much.
It's really good.
So like, he's just super funny. And then I just really like about how from beginning to end he's just treating everyone, and especially Julia, with like so much respect. Because like he's just really being an upstanding guy the entire time, like is super respectful of her and like not trying to like, you know, make moves on her like when she's still engaged, right? Like, he's being respectful about distance and stuff. And then like, also one thing I really liked about this movie in general is that they didn't feel a need to fall too hard into the mistake of like, oh, let's create this really big conflict between them that causes irreparable harm. Like, they could have like easily had, you know, have Robbie and Holly sleep together when they had that double date. Like, it could have easily gone to like him being sad and being like, "Yeah, I guess we'll just do it," or whatever.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it. Like, he
with his ex or something.
Right. Like, it didn't fall into any of those mistakes that created like such damage between them that had to be fixed in the relationship. It really was a lot more straightforward, so they could get together at the end and not have like any bad feelings toward each other.
Yeah. It definitely is like a feel-good movie. Like, all of the conflicts and everything, it isn't conflict that makes you feel icky at the end, you know? It's like all conflict that's like pivotal to pushing the plot forward, you know?
Right.
I really love this movie. I think it's really sweet.
Yeah,
but
so those were my notes about it. I really liked the movie. I was surprised at how much I liked it. So bravo to you.
Haha.
You got one on me that I wasn't expecting to like.
I knew you would like it. And so just like two really quick fun facts about it. So this is Adam Sandler's highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
I can see that.
And so by the critics, it was given a 69%, and by the audience, it was given an 80%. And like in comparison, I like to probably one of his worst, like Jack and Jill, like it's miles above it. But it's also the first of the three like Sandler Barrymore movie collabs, which I don't know if you've seen 51st Dates.
I haven't because of my prejudice against him.
Okay, so
Well, and also I feel like the idea of that movie is kind of frustrating because I'm just like, I don't need to see mostly the same thing happen over and over again. Because I know that that's a part of, I know it's a small part of what it's about.
so if you liked this movie, I strongly feel that you will like that movie because it is like very similar in the similar vein where like his character is like really well, his character in the beginning is actually supposed to be like this like Don Juan kind of character. And he like falls so in love with Drew Barrymore's character that he like realizes that like he wants to be more for her. And it's really beautiful. Like it's so beautiful the extent he goes to like making it work because like he's like, you know, like the whole premise of it is that she has amnesia and like she can't remember, like her short-term memory like resets every day.
Right. So what you're gonna actually hate about this is that probably because of like when it's been on TV and whatever, I've actually seen how it ends.
No. Wait, so you know, wait, what do you know?
So if I remember correctly, and spoilers to those who haven't seen it, so I guess, turn down the volume now, is I'm fairly certain it ends like where I think she still has like, the amnesia thing or whatever, but like he's filmed like this entire film thing of basically like their life kind of together and like they have like kids and whatever. And like she starts every day by watching this video and then, I guess she might remember or something at that point. But I know that I think that she watches a video.
Okay, that's not the ending.
It's not?
That's like the middle.
Of the like with kids too?
No,
Because
there's not a video with kids.
She
was a teacher, so you might have seen like kids in it.
Maybe.
But no, it's not how it ends. So you gotta watch it. It's
Fine.
Streaming on, I think, Hulu. And it's really sweet. Like that one's another really sweet one. I made my mom watch it for the first time like recently, and she's like, it was a good one. She's like, how come I haven't seen this one? I was like, I don't know, Mom. But yeah, so it was Wedding Singer, then it was 51st Dates, and then they had another movie called Blended, which I never saw that movie, but I'm assuming it was good because Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore have such like good chemistry together. Obviously, why they've continued to work together. But yeah, I'm really glad you liked it, Alex, because this is like one of my favorite movies. Like when I was like younger, like it was one of my favorite rom-coms for sure.
It's really good. It's solid. I like it.
Good. I'm happy.
It doesn't have the annoying qualities of Adam Sandler movies later on.
Have you seen Click?
I've seen bits and pieces of it on TV.
Okay, that's another one that we're gonna need to watch together because that's another one that's like legitimately like probably the, in my opinion, the best Adam Sandler movie he made. Not the most rewatchable because it makes me sob, but I think arguably it's the best one he made. We need to watch it. And anyone that I've ever talked to is like says the exact same thing. Like such an amazing movie, but I sobbed.
You know how I feel about crying during movies?
I know, but it's so beautiful. Like the reason you cry in it is like it's a beautiful reason, and like we have to watch it. Now that I know that like you are okay with like Adam Sandler movies that where he's not being like overtly Adam Sandler, we got to watch these movies.
I'm glad at least that we can agree upon that it is his personality, like that, gets a little bit grating, like in these movies. Like when he's being super Adam Sandler, it actually is annoying.
No, I totally agree. Like he recently came out with Hubie Halloween last year, and it was probably the absolute worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I would recommend it. I would 100% recommend it because of how many cameos there are. Like every minute there's like a different cameo of another famous celebrity. So like honestly, just for seeing like who's coming next, it's entertaining, but it is
Right.
the worst movie I've ever seen in my whole life.
That is one thing that he does in his films, is that he brings a lot of cameos of like people he likes in it. So like one thing that I know that he does somewhere in like the middle of like his movie making years is that he'd actually bring on like this sports broadcaster, Dan Patrick, like in different
Okay.
roles. And like I used to listen to Dan Patrick in the morning with my dad, like, you know, in the drives to school or whatever. So like that's why that's significant to me. Probably
Right.
isn't significant to that many people who are listening to
Mhm.
this. But you know, it's a fun fact because I think
Yeah.
that there was one more sports guy that he also liked to use for cameos, but I know one of them in general is Dan Patrick. And Dan Patrick is like super tall too. So have you seen the Adam Sandler movie where he goes to prison and is playing football?
No. Is that the Water Boy?
No, not at all.
I'm like, what is it called? Do you know?
I don't, let me Google it really quick because I don't want to say The Longest Yard, but I kind of want to say that, but I feel like that's a different movie.
I feel like that might be it.
It is The Longest Yard. Oops,
No, I've
sorry.
never seen that. Why
Yeah,
is it good?
so, well, I mean, it's good. It's kind of one of his like middle ground like movies as far as how annoying he gets. Like he's not super annoying in it, but also like it's not like there's parts of it that are kind of just like like heart-wrenching a little bit to watch.
Hmm.
But like there is a like when his character gets pulled over by a cop in the beginning, like the cop that pulls him over is Dan Patrick.
Oh, that's random, but okay. I can see that. I mean, yeah, like you said, like he has a lot of connections to a lot of celebrities, and like
Mhm.
he also himself like cameos in a lot of like TV shows and like random things. So like I can see that being something that he implements like consistently into a lot of movies.
Right.
Yeah, but ultimately what I've taken from this is we need to watch more Adam Sandler movies. But okay, thanks for watching it, Alex. I'm
No
glad you
problem.
enjoyed it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this movie breakdown, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Later.